Proverbs 24:33 through 34 says, "A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man." Proverbs 24:33 through 34. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon us like a robber. And what that means is it's okay to rest. We are commanded to rest, and we are to keep the Sabbath holy. And on the seventh day, God rested, so we should rest on the seventh day, because those who take time to practice the Sabbath will feel much more rejuvenated and ready to go into the next week with greater energy, because they took that time to keep the Sabbath holy, but to also use that day as a day of rest. And whatever that is as far as rest, as long as it's appropriate and it's not sinful, then we should do that so long as it, again, is appropriate, but it is also something that we enjoy, because those days of rest should be growing in God, doing some sort of growth with God, but also also taking time to do something that is just stress-free. Because if we continue to build up our work days, there are going to be times where eventually we're going to reach burnout. And there's a lot of health benefits through that, taking even simple times to study. All of us, I'm sure, have gone through that experience of trying to grind it out day by day, our work, and doing that and not taking a day off. And we eventually start reaching fatigue, and then that fatigue makes us very much tired. Then we're tired throughout the day. We're not performing at our best for the Lord and for the work He's called us to do. And when we do that, then eventually we reach a burnout, and we don't want that. So we need to rest, take a Sabbath, but we need to also not slumber and sleep and just fold our hands and just be lazy, because there's plenty of proverbs in here that talk about laziness. And those who are lazy are idle, and those who are idle are not going to receive anything because they're not doing anything. And when they're not doing anything, they shouldn't expect to receive anything, because in order to receive something, we do have to work towards it and for it. We can't expect to, for example, live off of welfare for the rest of our lives and just sit back and just allow that to happen. Because even if that were okay from a viewpoint of, for example, the United States allowing people to do that, it still is deteriorating and destroying man, because man finds purpose in his work. Ultimately, we find our purpose in God, but man finds his purpose in work. And when he is not working and doing something, then he becomes more depressed. And when people become more depressed, there is much greater potential things to occur, such as suicide, which is very devastating. And it's actually unfortunately what happened to my grandfather. When he retired, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do with his life. He lost his wife a couple years after retirement to cancer, which was my grandmother. And then he just did not know what to do, and that led him to great depression, and through that depression, he had taken his life. And that is not the way at all. And if you're struggling with that, please call somebody. Please reach out to someone. Know that your life has meaning and purpose, and that God is calling you, and He desires to know you, and He does have a plan for you. So when we get lazy and idle, that destroys not only our ability to be able to work and to be able to gain and provide for a family, and to also provide for our internal welfare, because when we don't do anything, we feel lazy, lethargic, we feel like we're not contributing to society, because we're not. And it's those who expect everything to be handed to them that are going to quickly realize that they have to work. And if they don't work, then poverty is going to come upon them. And not all impoverished people are like this, not at all. But there are some people who have been brought to poverty simply because they will not work and because they haven't found the dream job. Well, sometimes we have to start up life by working at things that we don't want to do. And that's how it started with me. And through God's grace, He's continued to show me more of what my gifts are, where I can help. And He has provided me some awesome jobs on top of me running my business that give me complete autonomy to be able to work where I want, when I want, as long as I get the work done. And I know not every job is like that, but God has been very gracious through that, and I had to go through jobs that I did not want to do way back in the day, but that's what led me to this opportunity to be able to walk into by God's grace and His leading and directing my steps and directing my path. But those who are lazy and idle, again, poverty is going to come on them like a robber and want like an armed man. They're going to want things because they're too lazy to work for them, and therefore they want them. And then they're going to approach other people as if they were an armed man. They're going to say, you have to give me this because I want it. And that want is going to drive and rule them because they're not doing anything to be able to get closer to that. And because they're not doing anything to get closer to that, their entitlement's going to continue to increase. And eventually they're going to do what should not be done to get what they want, because when we are poor and when we don't trust God and when we trust in our ways and we're too lazy to do what is required of us, we are going to do things that are going to lead us down a road that we wish we would have never gone down, and it's going to lead us to doing things that we know that we should not do, but the want is going to drive us, because if we don't have food, we can't live, and we're not trusting God. And if we don't trust God and we only trust in ourselves, and we're going to try and do things our way, which ultimately are destructive and damaging. So may we not sleep and slumber and just continue, because Proverbs says the same thing about a man. He twists around in his bed. I'm paraphrasing, but like a clock goes around, so a foolish man and a slumberer tosses on his bed. He's just going to continue to lay there and do nothing, and that is not the way. So may we not be slumberish, may we not be idle, may we take time a day to keep the Sabbath holy and to rest. May we find times throughout the day, towards the end of the day, where we can spend with the family and rest, but may we not live a lifestyle of slumber and complacency and expecting everything to be handed to us simply because we are who we are and we exist, because that is not at all the way. That leads to prideful mindsets, that leads to laziness, and that leads to attitudes that do not reflect Christ likeness. So may God make us diligent workers in the faith, and for Him may we take time to rest as needed, but may we not live the lifestyle that will lead us ultimately towards poverty and will make our want be as an armed man.